was talking to a couple of real good friends of mine. This guy who I met at my job under the name Christian, and his wife. I don't recall his wife's name, but we were talking about, biblical things. And I had brought to their attention that religion has hijacked humanity itself. And when I was coming up in the 70s, there was a very common saying which said, if you would just look at things, then you'd be able to see and understand exactly what's going on. And I noticed as time prevailed forwards, you go into the 80s to where everything was able to be seen objectively. Then you go into the 90s, and what I noticed, which started in the almost mid 90s, you might as well say like that, the year 1994, around that time, I heard that common saying being a bit altered when people say, if you would look closely, you would be able to see. That whole thing of saying, if you look closely, that implies what used to be able to be seen plainly is being hidden by way of other natural forces, you might as well say. And I would say through media, movies, and things such like that, a whole lot of things that get our attention and therefore govern our attention span in terms of time and focusing on things that's really not serving humanity any purpose, and which gives a environment that will eventually become inhumane more power to grow and to exist. The whole thing of sports, we spend hours observing sports, entertainment, this idol worshiping of celebrities and things and such, while our own lives are falling apart. Because our focus is not objectively on what we're doing as a human family in terms of humanity itself. And so this is one of the primary reasons why the earth abroad, actually, from my own observation, is going into darkness, and therefore everything on the planet is becoming more inhumane than humane. I mean, even when you look at these shows, like I mentioned Power all the time, of where you have all of these characters that are created for everyone to pretty much grow to love and to borderline worship. And these are some of the worst type of human beings that you could ever see. I mean, these are the same type of human beings where if you were to come upon them on the street, or if you had known people like this, even in your past, in terms of sitting up saying, I used to know a guy like Tommy from Power. And then when you have someone like myself or other people who would try to investigate what you're saying, you would ask them, well, if you knew this guy, were you friends with him? People would say, no, I stayed away from him. My family told me to stay away from him because these people were eventually going to end up getting themselves between either jail or death, jail or the graveyard. And that was a very common saying coming up in the Chicago area. But if you look at the characters like Tommy, Kane, Rock from Raising Cane, you find yourself adoring those people, even though you can clearly see that they are criminals. They're criminals. And therefore, your attention span and your love and everything is being shifted towards thing in which definitely compromises your moral standards. And then once that happens, you become inhumane and less humane. And you start looking at these people as heroes and not criminals. And then next thing you know, you start hoping that the people who are making the world a terrible place and trying to maintain a whole lot of communities and societies in a state of enslavement, because they're selling drugs and things and such. You start looking at those people as the heroes when you don't really see yourself as them, because in the back of your mind, you still say, well, even though these people are bad, I still hope that they get away. And therefore, if you really paying very close attention, the people in whom they're selling those drugs to or killing on the street, those people are actually you. You're the victim. And so when you observe very closely of how your mind is being shifted to what is inhumane from what used to be humane to you, you find it more difficult to come in contact with what's sitting up in your heart, because of all of the things that's going on in your mind, and which was imbued there by way of society in general going its darkness. We talked about that scripture where it says, be not conformed to the things of the world. Christian had brought up, we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And I had explained to them, because one of them was just a little bit off, but I was letting them know how the pastors have pretty much lied to everyone, as I used to hear even in the 70s, that you're a born sinner. You're born into the world as a sinner. No, you're not. You're born into a world of sin. And as you move forward, and as time prevails, and your mind starts picking up things because of the things that you see and a lot of the things that you hear around you, when your spark of intelligence starts taking this information in, then simply because you're able to take information in, questions are going to start developing because of your natural gift of curiosity. And so you're going to start asking questions, which strengthens your interest because you want to know. And whether you realize it or not, what you really want to know is what you have been born into. But the whole thing is, all of the things that are immoral that are going on in the world, that are constantly functioning, and you coming up in that environment, your mind is going to conform to those things, and that's going to affect your intelligence, and it's going to shape a mentality that you are going to end up being put in the position to where you have to utilize in order to be able to relate with everyone in your environment. And that is the conforming of the things of the world. Be not conformed of the things of the world. And the reason why it says be not, that's equivalent to a commandment. It's equivalent as a suggestion and an advice. Conform not of the things of the world. But as you move forward and you begin to develop your intelligence, then you get to the point to where morality starts also swelling inside of you in terms of what is right and what is wrong. And from that point on, it's as Brother Bruce Lee had said, he said, absorb only what is useful and discard what is useless. And that implies a person who is accumulating a whole lot of information. And if they're state of morality is good, then what they're going to do is absorb only what is good for their state of morality and discard the inhumanes of morality or of immorality that is functioning in the society. And it goes vice versa. A person who is on the opposing side of morality, who is a person to where their whole, you might as well say, like, internal foundation is rooted in immorality, they are going to discard the goodness of the moral things of the world, and they're going to embrace the immorality of it. So everything is based upon not only just perception, but but everything is based upon where your heart is rooted in terms of morality or immorality. So due to the fact that we have a heart to where it is subject to be moral or immoral, we have to get to the point to where we have to, might as well say, exercise our gift of choice on what side are you going to execute from within yourself, because everyone has a good side and everyone has a bad side. Even though people who are considered bad people, they still have some light inside of them. That's one of the reasons why I love the Star Wars series when it comes to Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker's conflict within, because of his anger and his rage and his hurt and his love and everything. So I look at the redemption and the storyline of Darth Vader. I believe a whole lot of us can relate to that. But the whole thing is, as we move ahead in this journey of morality and immorality, you have to be led inside of yourself and find out which path you would rather walk in. Because in spite of some people being considered to be of the dark side, and you have some people who are considered the light side. So you have people who are considered bad, you have people who are considered good by way of the judgment of morality, from various individuals who are observing these people's thinking process and their actions. But the whole thing is, in spite of what side you choose to choose, you might as well say that, if you're a bad person, a whole lot of people coming up, and we used to have these conversations in Chicago, me and my friends, and I recall one time we were all standing in front of my great grandmother's house, and we were talking about the quote unquote bad guys and the evil people and all of that. And my friend John Beale had brought up Star Wars, and he said, well, just like the people of the dark side, he said, and if you notice, he said, what I don't understand about people of the dark side is that they're able to kill off a whole lot of people, and they just walk away as though it doesn't bother them. And I was explaining to him to where whether you're on the what is called the light side or the dark side, simply because these people have chosen one or the other, after they've made that choice, what you don't understand is that for them to come to make that particular choice, they have in time become at peace with their decision to make that particular choice of whichever side that they are going to, you might as well say, execute. So basically, when a person chooses either side, they're at peace with what side that they choose. And so whether it's the dark side or the light side, they've chosen that side and they're at peace. And that's one of the reasons why they can do particular things that most would consider immoral. But with these particular people, those things are not immoral at all. Those things are moral according to their particular understanding of what morality is and its objective and what it can produce on the earth. The same as people who do good have that same understanding. Well, not the same understanding, but that same state of peace within, because they come to the conclusion that when they choose to execute or demonstrate the good side, they're at peace with that. And so you have these two opposing communities that are competing for domination on earth, you might as well say. So due to the fact that you have this side and that side, and they oppose one another, I came to the conclusion to where if these two oppose one another and they're always going to be clashing, if you ask me, ain't neither one of them worth that. Because while those two are clashing, there are people out there with that, what they call the third eye, which I don't ever utilize that phrase, but I would rather say the ones on the outside, as myself, as I was coming up, that was always observing the conflict between the so-called good side and the so-called bad side. I'm observing them both clashing. I observed this with watching a whole lot of war documentaries from the Civil War through World War I, World War II, Vietnam, all the way up to the current times. Good side, bad side, and you're clashing. And what are you doing to the environment of the earth? Due to the fact that you two oppose one another, and you're going at each other, and you're clashing because one is trying to dominate the other based on principle. What are you causing on the earth? You're causing the earth to suffer because you have other people watching this war of good and evil going on. And they are saying, well, when two people are arguing, bystanders can't tell the difference. That was an old saying that all of the elders used to tell us whenever they would catch us arguing. They would walk up, and if I was arguing with one of my friends and he was arguing back and forth with me, and due to the fact that we didn't agree with one another, due to the fact the intensity of the conflict was causing such a ruckus that someone had to come in and investigate to see what the hell was going on. And then when they would try to separate us or have us be quiet, we would still be going at one another. Now, one would be right, the other one would be wrong, but the observer is looking at you both clashing. And so the observer can't tell the difference who's right or who's wrong, because you both are clashing one another. And so the reason why I said in one of my previous videos that I'm going to move forward with humanity itself, because I understand the message that Yeshua was contained with is a lesson of humanity in which we all have inside of ourselves. This is one of the reasons why Yeshua said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And so if things are going to get better on this earth, how about us understanding that either side that we choose is not going to bring us together? There has to be some love present in order for us to develop enough humility and enough intelligence to sit down either at a table or stand before one another, to where we both can see exactly where these different perceptions came from both of us, whether it's two men or two women, or a man and a woman, or a woman and a man. We have to have enough love inside of ourselves to where we don't mind utilizing patience, compassion, and understanding that we may be able to sit down or stand before one another and have enough humility and humanity inside each one of us to where we can come to an understanding, because we have to understand exactly where each and every one of us got that certain level of perception and state of being and convictions. And all of that comes from our own personal life journey. That comes from our own personal life journeys. And that's one thing we're going to all have to be able to understand, is that even though we talk about the same subject, what we have are similar takes upon that same judgment. And the similarities come from the fact that we both are individuals and we have individual experience based upon a subject that we both can relate to, because that subject matter is an everyday life principle in which we both can relate to, even though we're two individuals. So the only way that the earth is going to become a better place to exist is that we have to have a will to understand one another objectively, because that's the only way that things are going to get better. And I'm going to leave you with that, because I have some important writing to get done, because it's just, I have a whole lot on my mind tonight. I need to get all of that down. So with that being said, everyone have a beautiful night, and everyone please stay human, stay humane. Everyone have a good night.